Hi there, Claire Shaw from the Royal Literary Fund, speaking to you from the Right Now project in my friend Helen's spare bedroom. Don't it seem crazy to think we've been living with COVID since February, March, lockdown since March, and so many things have changed in so many different ways. It was just last week I was chatting with people at Tesco's Newcastle, and we were saying in all of our different lives, living in different places, in different ways, through all of these changes, the one thing that we seem to have in common is fear. You know, to different degrees, we've lived with fear since March. That kind of stunned fear at the start of lockdown, and through all those worries and fears about our health and our friends, our families, elderly parents, poorly relatives, through all of the anxiety about the economy and our jobs and how are we going to work and what will we do for money, and all of the uncertainty we're living with now as lockdown eases, and none of us seem that clear about what we should be doing, what's right for us, what's right for the people that we care about, what's right for our community and our country. In some ways, some of that fear is increasing. Some of you in your huddle might have already talked about what got you through, because one thing for sure is that we have all got through. We've all got this far, and in many ways we've got this far together. However kind of distant the pandemic has forced us to be in some ways, there are other ways it's brought us closer together. We kind of miss each other and appreciate each other in new ways, I think. And I'm really happy that this little film has been used in a team meeting, because teams are part of what carry us. And I hope that this gives you another way on focusing on how we get ourselves and each other and our teams and our workmates through these difficult times. So yeah, some of you in your huddles might have already thought about that one single thing that got you through lockdown and might still be helping you to get through these difficult times. And I suggested that in your huddles you could bring all of those separate ideas together as a list and use that as a list of instructions for surviving the pandemic. And it would be so great if one of you had written those down, and if you send them to the Right Now project, because these pieces of writing will all be collected in a national archive of writing from retail and distribution staff, so that your voices as key workers in those key industries are part of the national record of what went on and what's still going on during these times. In the next 5 or 6 minutes, in the context of lots of uncertainty and confusion about what we actually should be doing, you're going to create your very own individual list of instructions for surviving the pandemic. And you're going to do it like this. So you're going to get a pen and a paper, or whatever you prefer to use, because some people prefer writing onto phones and some write onto tablets or laptops. Whatever you prefer, that's fine. And in just 1 minute, I'm going to give you a couple of instructions, and you're going to write in response to those instructions. There are a couple of things that you're not going to do. You're not going to sit there agonizing. You're not going to worry about grammar or punctuation or style or structure or form or whether it rhymes or it's a story or whether it makes sense. You're not going to worry about whether it's any good or whether it's embarrassing. You're not going to worry. Worry is what stops us from telling our own stories. Worry about what we sound like keeps our voices quiet. And it means that people don't hear our version of events and they don't hear our ideas or hear about our lives and our experience. And that is no good. So no worries. I'm going to give you really simple suggestions, and you're going to write for like 10, 20 seconds, a few words, a line. We can all do that. And the first thing that you're going to write down, I'm all squashed up here, that's why I have to keep moving. The first thing that you're going to write down is during lockdown, during the easing of lockdown, right now, one way that you've kept in touch with friends. So for me, a really important way of keeping in touch with friends has been watching films on Zoom with my friend Alice. Generally, scary films on Zoom. Watching scary films on Zoom with Alice is my response. Second thing you're going to write down is one thing that you do or did during your break at work, whether you've worked at home, or you've had to travel to a workplace, or maybe you've been on furlough. For me, that is absolutely about watching. What was that series I watched from beginning to end? The Walking Dead. Series 1 to 8. One thing that you ate. So it might be something you eat regularly, or something that just leaps out in your mind as particularly significant. Beetroot in the garden in Wales. One thing that you did out of doors. I'm thinking about those, when you had your hour of exercise during really deep lockdown, and we all thought it was a rule and that we had to have an hour of exercise. And around my town, it's never been so busy with people going out for runs and walks and cycling. But I think we all notice the outdoors in ways that we maybe haven't before. One thing that you did when you clocked off from work. Again, whether that was workplace or whether it was working from home. I'm thinking about a day when I just had to get outside and stand in the rain because it was the only way of telling my brain that I'd stopped working. Stand in the rain, tell yourself you stopped working. Something that involved your family. So just one thing. It might be about a get together or a keeping in touch or letters. Give me something that you did or are doing that involves your family. Something that you did for others. We made biscuits for the neighbours. And the last thing that I want you to write down is a piece of advice that you might pass on to your kids or your grandkids. Okay, what I want you to do with it, look at that. This is how writers write. We're a bit like GPs. We write so only we can read it in case somebody steals it. I don't know why GPs do that. And I want you at the top of your page to write instructions for surviving a pandemic. It'd help if I could talk, wouldn't it? Instructions for surviving a pandemic. And then I want you to take your list, make it into a list of instructions. So where I've written, I text to friends every day, I might change that to text your friends every day. Where I've written, watch scary films on Zoom with Alice, I would change it into watch scary films with Alice. Make it into an order, like you're telling someone to do it. Stood in the rain and told myself I'd stopped working becomes stand in the rain and tell yourself you've stopped working. Okay, so I'm going to try and read out my list of scroll as though this is a list of instructions for surviving the pandemic. Watch scary films on Zoom with your friend. Watch Walking Dead series 1 to 8. Eat beetroot from the garden in Wales. Look at the trees and the leaves. Stand in the rain and tell yourself you have stopped working. Have your niece to stay. Be amazed at how much mess she makes. Make biscuits for neighbours. Don't be afraid of fear. Do you know what? I quite like that. I do quite like that. I love it when you write something that you like. That's the point. It only took 4 minutes. It's not perfect, but when we let ourselves write, we are always surprised at what comes out. Sometimes you just get a line or two that you like. Sometimes a little perfect diamond pops out without you knowing. Sometimes you're really surprised by what comes out of your head. So you take a minute to read back what you've written, turn it into a list of instructions, like a list of orders, cut out the things that don't work, add more stuff if you want, shift it around. So you start with, advice and end with something that you see if you can all be brave enough to share what you've written with each other. And even better for me, share it with us, send it directly to us at the Royal Literary Fund, hand it into your Usdaw ULR, follow links, become part of the national story of COVID, create a national record of your stories as retail and distribution and allied workers' experiences during the pandemic. Thank you for writing. See you soon.